It is time for another edition of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, I am Jason Floyd. As always, joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. here to talk UFC 318 goes down on Saturday in New Orleans, Louisiana. Of course, headlined by the trilogy matchup, the BMF title on the line. Max Holloway defending that title against Dustin Poirier. Co-main event will be Paulo Costa taking on Roman Kopylov. Pete, how's it going, man?
What's up, Jason? What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. I'm excited to have... the Holloway Poirier trilogy, of course, something that I really wasn't looking forward to, but I'm a big fan of both of those fighters. So anytime they fight, I'm excited. And then some interesting names throughout the rest of the card, and looking to move on to a better read on this card.
Yeah, of course, coming in off UFC Nashville that went down last weekend, Derek Lewis once again going out and doing Derek Lewis things. You talked about last week. You like Taliesin Share, and I think a lot of in the MMA community thought this was potentially the coming out party. But we talked about last week. One of the things I mentioned was like, hey, this is only his second UFC fight. The one thing I will say is I thought that was a very early stoppage. If Jason, I want to say it was Jason Herzog was the referee in that matchup. Yeah. I think if he would have come in sooner, I would have had no problem with it. But just how that played out, and even Dana White after the fact said, hey, I thought it was a little bit of a quick stoppage there. But look, in mixed martial arts, man, it's one of the hard. It's hard to break down these fights. And look, at the end of the day, if we get 7 out of 10 fights right every week, we're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a very volatile sport to begin with. It's the most unpredictable thing in the world. You're talking about very high-level athletes and a lot of intangibles and variance in the sport. So it's it's tough. But granted, we talked about the strength of schedule of how Taliesin Teixeira hasn't beaten anybody. And it was a massive opportunity for Teixeira to kind of catapult his career. And you knew what the UFC was doing. Like, okay, we're trying to set this guy up to maybe get some stardom off of one of our big stars that is 40. He's aged. He's got a puncher's chance. He's he's low volume, but when he hits people, they fall down. And sure enough, Derek Lewis does it once again, and the king of the knockouts in the UFC picks up another one. And credit to him. I mean, God forbid you doubt this guy. I mean, it's crazy because when you think about it, oh man, what is his name? Who ended up knocking him out in the clinch with an elbow, and he does the shimmy. I can't even, his name's escaping me right now. But some odd losses throughout Derek Lewis's career, and it's just hey, it was too early. It was too early, and Taliesin Teixeira got checked pretty good. But yeah, it was Tai Tuivasa who I'm thinking of. Tai Tuivasa in 2025, think about where he is right now. You know what I mean? He has not turned into anything. If anything, he's struggled. So regardless, it was not the best read on the card at all. And I'm hoping to move forward and have a better read on this card.
Yeah, when you look at last week, we had 5 fighters score 100 points over on DraftKings. Derek Lewis with 129. Walter Walker with 122.44, 3 straight heel hook submission wins. We talked about that last week of why we like the upside of Walter Walker, and man goes out there and does it again. Tuco Tokos going out there with 117 points. Mike Davis with 113. Prachnio with 104. Of course, Prachnio was the highest roster, one of the highest salary guys last week. Jake Matthews going out there with 97 points, and Morgan Charrier with 93 points. I just want to know what the hell his corner said to him after the second round, because he came out like a different fighter. And then the co-main event. Okay, maybe my blinders could be on a little bit here. As someone who is holding a Stephen Thompson wins by decision at plus 700 ticket, how the hell 2 of those judges scored the 3rd round for Bomb Fiend for literally stalling?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely had a better read on the co-main event than the main event. I like the value of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Obviously, I was worried about the submission threat of Gabriel Bonfim, but outside of that, I thought that Thompson would win the damage exchanges on the feet, utilize good rangy attacks, lots of kicks, and we just have to defend takedowns against the cage. And he did so for the majority of the fight and definitely had the better damage throughout. And I still gave the fight to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in the third because I did think that's, of the minimal damage of the round, that it belonged to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And the control against the cage and the empty takedowns, if you will, didn't materialize into anything. No dominance, no damage. So that's why I ended up giving it to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But hey, it is what it is. I was happy with the value bet on Wonderboy Thompson. That was a situation where like plus 3.5, I would have been cool with. But of course I did think that he won the fight, and I was happy to see my read was correct, but it just did not materialize into profit once again.
Now, when we move ahead to UFC 318 come up here on Saturday, talking about DFS game theory, I mean, look, it has to start at the main event when you're talking about on DraftKings and also on FanDuel. DraftKings, Holloway A200, Poirier 8,000. Over on FanDuel, Holloway $17, Poirier at $15. It's going to be a highly owned fight on both sides of the equation. I mean, pretty much on the FanDuel side of the equation. If you want to get different on FanDuel, just don't put them in the MVP spot because both of them are getting majority of the ownership over there. But like that to me is where it starts is, if you're playing multi lineups, you want to get both of these guys in there, but then when I look kind of at the rest of this, like we were kind of talking about this like right before the show we've got some high salary fighters, especially early on the fight card that you're like, do I trust them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of untrustworthy candidates throughout this entire card. Fighters that have paths to victory and were supposed to turn into something that never really did, that have struggled mightily in the UFC to be consistent. A lot of people on this card are consistently inconsistent, so you don't know what you're going to get with them. It's kind of crazy because they're not only that, they're volatile. And if they do lose, it's a bad look because the level of opponent that they're facing it's such a winnable matchup. And clearly the easiest ones that I can point to is Ryan Spann against Lukasz Brzeski. And then the next one is Jimmy Crute against Marcin Prachnio. So it's like those two guys, Spann and Jimmy Crute were supposed to be like some solid prospects within the sport, pick up notable wins and turn into maybe contenders or people within the top 15. And they have both flaked at opportunities and they've also struggled. So I'm excited to see if you agree with me or disagree with me on this card, and excited to hear what our listeners have to say as well. But yeah, thanks for joining us on a Thursday this week. If you can hit that like button, get us over 100 likes. Make sure you guys join the free Discord in the link below. And if you want data and projections, you guys can click the Patreon in the link below as well.
Of course, we also have memberships available here on the YouTube channel. It's one of the things I do want to hear from our viewers of, if you want to be a member of the site, what are some of those extra things that you would want to be a part of it? What are some of those content that you would like to see, a part of that? So be sure to let us know. We'd be interested to kind of hear, on some of these lower end salary fighters, particularly two fighters in particular I'll throw out there. Who do you have more faith in being a higher scorer on Saturday? Is it Paulo Costa at 7,300, or is it Marvin Vettori at 7,400? And like some other game theory thoughts I have is Danny Ige Patricio Pitbull is a fight that I really, from a consumer of the sport, I'm interested to watch the fight. But from a daily fantasy perspective, I just don't think it's going to ultimately lead to a great score. Like I feel like the winner more times than not is going to be in the 70-point range just because of it's going to be a stand-up fight. I think watching the Embedded where they follow Patricio Pitbull, it looks like he's done his entire camp down in Brazil. One of the more interesting parts of that story is the fact of he didn't go to Arizona at Cejudo's gym. Cejudo came down to him. Captain Eric came down to him down in Brazil. And Cejudo has a fairly close relationship with Dan Ige. For people who don't know, Dan Ige basically is like one of the top guys for God, why can I not think of Ali Abdelaziz's management company, Dominance MMA. Danny Ige, even though he's not rep by dominance, he's rep by sucker punch. He is basically like one of the head guys there at dominance, and of course Henry Cejudo represented by dominance. So that's kind of an interesting story. And I look down like, you talk about some of these high end options. Daniel Zellhuber at 9,500. Do you really want to get there? Probably going to be the leverage play this week in that 9,000 range. And then I think Kyler Phillips is going to be popular. But man, that scares the crap out of me, Pete, just because of, primarily has gone decision in UFC fights, and you just wonder if Vinicius maybe weathers that first round storm. Is that storm going to fade in the second round?
Yeah, the storm has faded in the past, right? Like the Achilles heel of Kyler Phillips has been his cardio. I mean, like he pushes such a significant pace early on that it's difficult for him to sustain it. I mean, for game theory, I think the main event, as you mentioned, 8,200 to 8,000, it's impossible to fade. You need it. Mm-hmm. You definitely need it. The co-main event between Kopylov and Costa, I think that it is wide, but the value is clearly on Costa. We have several 9,000 options from Kevin Holland to Zellhuber to Ateba Gautier to newcomer Dulatov and to Brunno Ferreira, all of which where, there's winnable matchups, but who has the highest upside and question marks surrounding several of them. The 8,000 range is definitely better than last week. We do have some actual options to choose from. The 7,000 range and the 6,000 range, you can get behind some, but it's not like I'm like in love with a ton of underdogs this week. And man, I mean, I'm trying to make my case for some of them. And if I think several points or several intangibles point in a direction, I am going to go with it. And I'm excited to see if you agree or disagree, because, finding underdogs is always the best part of each and every show. And then seeing if Jason and I agree on underdogs is great because you can really start to allocate your ownership or your exposure, given how we see the fight card going.
Yeah, there is. I will tell you, there is one fighter in the 6,000 options. I'm extremely interested to hear how you break this one down. Of course, Pete already mentioned about our Discord, mentioned about his Patreon channel. Also, our DraftKings contest is already up and active. The link to that contest is in the show notes for this one, so be sure to check out that one out. So let's get right into breaking this one. Of course, the main event: Max Holloway, the BMF champion, defending the title here against Dustin Poirier in the quote-unquote final fight for Dustin Poirier. You know me, Pete. I never believe this R word in combat sports, and we'll see. I mean, Dustin did have a very interesting comment yesterday at the media day where he goes, paraphrasing what he said, but it was essentially saying, I want to walk away on my own terms. I don't want the sport to retire me, which more times than not, that's exactly what happens in the sport. Of course, Dustin Poirier is a slight betting underdog here, plus 110, minus 130 for Max, who is 8,200 on DK, $17 on FanDuel. Poirier, 8,000 on DK and $15 on FanDuel. Of course, third meeting between these two guys, but it's been a while. I mean, you're talking 13 years since their first meeting. And then, of course, 5 years, or almost 6 years since their second meeting, which was, of course, Poirier won both of those matchups. For Max Holloway, first fight since being KO'd by Ilia Topuria back in October. That was his first TKO KO loss in his career. And, of course, for Poirier, it's his first fight since losing to Islam in June of last year. Had several injuries from that matchup. One of those injuries was a partially torn ACL. Pete, what are your thoughts on this one, man?
Man, I'm having a difficult time with this main event between Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. Obviously, Dustin Poirier bettered, Max Holloway, when Max was making his entrance into the octagon. And then years later, you had them rematch with Max Holloway stepping up on relative short notice, up a weight class, looking to avenge that first defeat to Dustin Poirier. And man, what a barn burner fight that was. Exciting, crazy combinations. Dustin Poirier was getting hit with some volume, but it was like empty shots because he was able to sustain it and then counter back and then start to land his own combinations. And when Dustin Poirier landed his combinations, it hurt Max countless times throughout that fight. I mean, I remember watching that fight thinking Dustin was going to finish Max Holloway. And it was just like, wow, I cannot believe that Max is struggling with the power that much. From that fight on, we've seen Dustin Poirier fight the likes of high-level wrestlers, high-level strikers, beat Conor McGregor. We've seen Max Holloway lose a trilogy to Alexander Volkanovski. We've seen Max Holloway, do the unthinkable and knock out Justin Gaethje in the final seconds of their fight. So it's crazy to see that these guys are actually fighting, and I don't really understand why this fight is even happening, to be honest. Like, I know it's cool because two fighters I really care about and I really like, and like Dustin Poirier, one of my favorite fighters of all time. I was friendly with him when I went and I visited and trained in Coconut Creek for a little bit. He was a great guy, so I'm always a fan. But like for me, Dustin Poirier is up 2-0. And I remember texting you, Jason, I go, man, like I don't understand why like this fight's even happening. And to kind of scroll back, has there ever been trilogies when fighters have been up 2-0? And I had to do some digging, and Tito Ortiz, Ken Shamrock is one where Ortiz won via TKO in 2002 and then won via TKO in 2006 in July. And then they ended up, for whatever reason, running it back a third time, and Tito Ortiz won again via TKO in round one in October of 2006. So that was one instance where a fighter who was 2-0 in a trilogy ended up winning the third time. Another one that we can go back and look at is Wanderlei Silva versus Kazushi Sakuraba. In their first fight, Silva won by TKO. Second fight, won by TKO. And in the third fight, Silva won by KO. So that's another situation where the guy was up 2-0, heading into a trilogy, and ended up winning the third one. We also have Quentin Rampage Jackson against Wanderlei Silva. This one is a little interesting because the script is like flipped a little bit. Fight 1, Silva TKOs Rampage Jackson. Fight 2, Silva KOs Rampage Jackson. And the third fight that wasn't in Pride was at UFC 92. Rampage Jackson KO'd Wanderlei Silva, and picked up the win. So he was able to actually, in the Max Holloway situation, pick up a victory, going into a fight 0-2 against your opponent, and ended up picking up a victory. The third and final one that I'll mention is Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira against Heath Herring. They also fought 3 times. You had Nogueira winning by decision in fight 1, decision in fight 2, and also won by decision in fight 3. So I found those 3 or 4 fights very interesting, doing some research before our show, and I just kind of wanted to share it. I'm torn on this fight. Jason, are you torn as much on this fight as I am?
I'm not. I'm not torn on this one. I mean, look, we just know when we're talking about retirements in mixed martial arts, how this is more times than not going to go down. More times than not, the way this is going to go down is the guy who says he's retiring is going to lose. Coming off the partially torn ACL is a little bit of a concern for me. I'll mention this question that came in. It says, hey, are we sprinkling this matchup in terms of stacking it? And I don't mind it because of the price point. But in that fact is, I feel like we need a 25-minute war. If you tell me this is a 25-minute war, I think Max Holloway ends up just taking it down. I'll say this, like, I think, and I don't know if your Instagram reel algorithm is the same as mine, but basically I'm getting all the videos of basically it's, basically everyone's rooting for Dustin Poirier to go out there and win. I just feel like and what I also thought was very interesting, what Dustin said yesterday, is they were talking about the stare down they had at one of the areas in New Orleans. And Dustin even goes, wow, Max has gotten big.
Yeah, I mean, Dustin's a big guy too. I mean, Max has definitely gotten big, and I think there was a time when we were worried about Max Holloway cutting down to featherweight. And I remember him having a very terrible interview, and I think Bisping was interviewing him, and that's when we were all worried about his health. And it's like, oh my God, he's like really struggling with the weight cut so much where it looked like he was about to have a seizure. Like it was like really, really scary. And then fast forward to now, he's never really had a problem, and he's, been a mainstay at 145 pounds. They're both big guys. I think Dustin Poirier struggles to get to 155 because he's a really, really big guy. And, I think that they have matured for sure. I don't know. Obviously, like the X factors in this fight don't give me confidence. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like the fact that it's openly a retirement fight. That's one. Mm-hmm. I don't like the fact that there's hometown pressure, two. I don't like the fact that it's a trilogy when you're up 2-0. Hopefully you're not too comfortable. You know what I mean? That's three. I have questions. Most of Dustin Poirier's, recent fights have been against guys trying to take him down. Max Holloway, on the other hand, has been fighting good strikers. Ilia Topuria, mm-hmm. Justin Gaethje, Korean Zombie, Arnold Allen, Alexander Volkanovski, Yair Rodriguez, you know what I mean? Like, so stylistically, like Dustin Poirier can go out there and box with Max, no problem at all. I'm just saying, like, he's been fighting Islam Makhachev, Benoit Saint-Denis, did fight Justin Gaethje, did fight Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira. I'm so torn on this fight, Jason, mm-hmm. because, like, the volume is there for Max Holloway. It was also there in their second fight, and it didn't matter. Dustin matched the volume. Dustin landed good power shots. And when he hit Max Holloway, he hurt him. And mm-hmm. let's be honest, 9-10 months ago, Max Holloway just got knocked out bad against Ilia Topuria. So he's not coming in here 100% either. Like that chin, the floodgates mm-hmm. could be open. It really could. And this could be a situation where, like, Dustin Poirier can land that big, powerful shot. Until you messaged me about the ACL injury, I don't know. I don't like that either. I mean, this is stackable fights, 100%. But
one of the things that Dustin Poirier did talk about yesterday was that this is Elias he has come in for a fight in a long time. It also, whether, I don't know how much you can relate this into whether or not, it's going to be a win for Dustin or a loss for Dustin. He said the last 90 days he has gone sober, no alcohol, no marijuana. And, we've heard other fighters talk about that. There's, I want to say Aljo most recently talked about that of, hey, sometimes guys in the camp, they just want to let loose. You know what? Yep. Whether it's, hey, you're going home and maybe you're just having a glass of wine. With your lady or whatnot. I mean, you hear fighters talk about it all the time. The thing DFS perspective, I want to get to both sides of the equation.
Agreed.
The betting props on this one, I find super interesting.
Okay, let's hear it.
First off, I just want to put like a very small wager on Dustin Poirier to win by submission at plus 1,400. He's gonna go for a guillotine. Come on, he's gonna go for a guillotine at some point. But, like, this is, to me, like, Poirier plus 325 to win by decision. Don't mind that. Hell, Poirier by TKO KO is plus 400.
I don't think Vegas the hell's going to go on.
The decision prop for Max isn't great. It's plus 170, plus 350 to win by TKO KO. I mean, look, I would be relatively shocked if this fight ends in a submission. I think more times than not, someone gets finished in the championship rounds.
I will tell you, with it being in Dustin Poirier's hometown, I would imagine the shots that Dustin Poirier lands, granted we already know he's going to have the more power of the two. He definitely does. I think the oohs and the ahs of the hometown crowd could clearly influence the judges. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like what has really changed since the second fight? Like, I do believe that, I think Dustin has looked better recently than ever, right? Like, I mean, the Conor fight, he looked fantastic. Islam Makhachev was outstriking Dustin Poirier in moments, but Islam Makhachev is a very good striker. I think that they're both primed for an excellent fight. The data really likes the volume of Max Holloway because he just really throws a lot. The kick variety of Max Holloway is what I do think is interesting, of how he can throw multiple kicks. Dustin Poirier looking to chew up the legs and then land big, powerful shots. I'm torn. I really am torn. In this, I'll tell you what this. If Dustin Poirier goes out there and wins, it's very similar to when, like, the betting line, just to me, it almost seems too good to be true. Kansas City Chiefs, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, when they were still underdogs and they had so much on their side. It's just like, it's the no-brainer bet, and I'm over here big braining it, going with the 49ers. And I wonder if this is a similar situation where it's just like everything. I will almost kick myself in the butt if on Dustin Poirier's last fight, I don't back him when he has like so many things in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the pick is going to be Max Holloway. I just think he gets the job done, and But look, do I have concerns of how does Max fight after having his first TKO KO loss? I mean, the one thing I'll say this though about that fight against Poirier, before that ending sequence, he was kind of turning things around in that matchup, and let's be honest about it. We just saw Poirier wreck Charles Oliveira in a round. It took him 3 rounds to do that against Max Holloway. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, the pick is going to be Max Holloway for me, but yeah, I want to, in terms of, obviously I'll have some entry lineups out there. Yeah, I'm going to have a Dustin Poirier and some lineups, and and I'll stack the fight as well.
Yeah, I really still don't know. And I really don't know. My data loves Max Holloway. I'll tell you that right now. Like, it really likes Max Holloway in the matchup, and I tend to lean towards the data. My brain is saying Max, my heart is saying Dustin. So I'm going to. I'll pass on the fight. No, I got to pick somebody.
I mean, look, in terms of from a DFS perspective, yeah, that would be an amazing way to get unique in these bigger GPP contests. But man, the price point is what just scares the crap out of you of getting away from this matchup, and especially if either one of these guys goes out there and just goes out there and gets a massive one. Interesting comment that Pete makes. Pete Warner over in the YouTube chat, he says the last 4 people that have that Poirier's knocked out have come back and won their next fight. So that's kind of something interesting to throw out in terms of that one. But yeah, I want to get to both sides. Let's move over to the co-main event. It'll be a middleweight matchup. Paulo Costa taking on Roman Kopylov. Kopylov enters as a minus 250 betting favorite, plus 200 for Costa. Costa 7,300 DK, 8,900 for Kopylov. Over on the FanDuel side of the equation, Costa $12 and Kopylov is at $19. First time we've seen Paulo Costa in 13 months following that split decision loss to Sean Strickland. I don't know outside the judges how many people thought that was really a split decision there. 1-4 in his last 5 matchups. Those 5 matchups all take place since 2020. I mean, look, the losses are against the what have been the elite of this division for the past couple of years. Izzy, Vettori, Whitaker, and Strickland. The lone win came against Luke Rockhold. Not exactly when you look at when that victory happened, something to really brag about in terms of that one. Kopylov 6-3 in the UFC. 5 of those wins have come by TKO and KO. He is coming off a win in January against Chris Curtis. That was a TKO win with 1 second left in the matchup. And Paulo Costa saying some interesting things this week, talking about how he's going to be aggressive, whether you want to believe that or not. But Pete, I think my biggest concern with Paulo Costa, even though I think the line is a little wider than it should be, I just don't know if this is a great stylistic matchup for him.
Yeah, it's so weird because Paulo Costa is a guy that I mentioned before, I thought was going to materialize into a superstar, and it seems like ever since the Israel Adesanya fight, he's been a shell of himself. I mean, the Yoel Romero fight, the Uriah Hall fight. I mean, several of Paulo Costa's performances are exceptional. Ever since the Israel Adesanya fight, I feel like, man, the guy is not only gun shy, he's more of a counter fighter than the aggressive stalker. The hand combinations that he used to thrive with are just limited. The power is something that I never thought was exceptional, but the volume and the combinations and not discriminating from headshots to body shots, like just putting a great array of boxing combinations up there. And it just, I don't know, he started to pull out of a ton of fights, whether it was mental or struggling with injuries or getting sick. I mean, the guy has been extremely inactive. And then, fighting Sean Strickland, I didn't think that he looked all that great. I mean, granted, we know that he can go 25 minutes, but the majority of the media scores had it 50-45 Strickland. Next up, mostly everybody else had it 49-46. The fact that a judge, Dave Torelli, scored it 4-1 for Paulo Costa, 49-46, makes absolutely no sense. I don't really understand what he was watching. But outside of like that technical split decision, my guy has beaten Luke Rockhold, who stepped up on extremely short notice and didn't get finished. And if I'm not mistaken, that was at elevation too. Yeah, Salt Lake City. Luke Rockhold, they were both gassed. They were both huffing and puffing, covered in blood. And Paulo Costa was unable to finish Luke Rockhold. It's just like, man, he has not been the same. He has not been the same. And he was picked apart by a technician of Robert Whittaker. This is a winnable fight against Roman Kopylov. It really is. Like, Kopylov is the same guy that was submitted by Carl Roberson, if you go back in 2019. But he has really rounded out into a special talent of being a good southpaw with good hand combinations and an exceptional left kick. And his range management is good. He's kind of patched up his takedown defense a little bit. I still think that he is hittable, but he is aggressive. And I haven't really seen Paulo Costa be as aggressive as he used to be. So as much as I would love to get to Paulo Costa and pick him outright, it will be more than it will be just a value play, right? Because at 7,300, I think Costa has crazy talent. I just worry about him like in his own headspace. I just apparently saw a clip where people are saying that he was he on something at the media, at the press conference? Like, it looks like Khamzat Chimaev commented, "Bro, don't cry. What's going on with you?" or something like that. So I got to get off the podcast later and check out what's going on. But he seems somewhat like a head case lately, and I just don't understand what's going on. So the momentum and the skill set and the recent win streak of Roman Kopylov, it's too much to deny, right? Like, beating Chris Curtis, beating Cesar Almeida. Yes, he got submitted against Anthony Hernandez, but like Alessio Di Chirico, Punahele Soriano, Claudio Ribeiro, Josh Fremd, like he's willing to win, and he's willing to go in there and trade combinations. And I don't know what I'm getting out of Paulo Costa. So 8,900, you could do worse. I think it is a little wide. I think it would, minus 150. Minus 170 maybe for Roman Kopylov, but seeing him approach a 3-1 favorite, I don't know. I just maybe have too much respect for Paulo Costa, but Costa will be a value play. Kopylov will be the pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a betting perspective, getting the Kopylov, I'd probably be more looking at that decision prop, which is plus 100. So, I mean, but you're also talking about a fighter who's at minus 250. Could also be a very good live betting situation. The question, when you talk about Costa, so he talked about yesterday. So, apparently Chimaev slid into Costa's girlfriend's DMs. Look, to me, the concern was, I feel like you're talking more about Khamzat Chimaev than you're talking about Roman Kopylov. And that, to me, is kind of the little bit of a concern there. I remember initially early in the week when I looked at the betting odds, I was kind of like, wow, plus 200 for Paulo Costa? I'm like, okay, I just think it's a little wide. But I just wonder if he is tentative, like we have seen in his past couple fights. I don't want to get there, and I'm just truly concerned about Kopylov. Kopylov is going to be the straight up fight pick for me in terms of this one, but in terms of from a DFS perspective, don't mind having some lineups with Costa in there just to kind of get to some other options.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I have the same mindset. 7,300 Costa is a great value play, and somebody commented Costa hates Khamzat so bad at the press conference he got the shakes talking about him. So like there's clearly some anger towards Khamzat Chimaev, but that's a distraction. You got to deal with Roman Kopylov. I mean, granted, it could be a motivating factor to beat Roman Kopylov to hopefully get Khamzat Chimaev. So I definitely will be mindful of everything and increasing exposure to Paulo Costa just because he's like the wild card of the slate, if you will. But the pick will be Kopylov.
One of the more funnier comments came from the press conference. I'm not sure it was a press conference or it was the media day. Paulo Costa is now selling the secret juice in Brazil.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yeah, it's only in Brazil at the moment, apparently.
Yeah, he said they're working on getting in the United States, but that was one of the more funny moments there. Next up, we've got a welterweight matchup. We got Kevin Holland taking on Daniel Rodriguez. Kevin Holland, a massive betting favorite here, minus 650, plus 425 for D-Rod. D-Rod on DraftKings is 6,900. Holland is 9,300. Over on FanDuel, Holland is $20 and Rodriguez is $11. This is actually the third time these fighters have been booked to fight each other. Holland, the first time they were booked against each other, Holland ended up getting a shoulder injury, had to pull out of that matchup. And then, of course, they were supposed to fight in 2022, but that was in the whole weigh-in issues with Chimaev, and Holland ends up getting Chimaev fight. Things go around that way. Already, we're in July of 2025. This is the fourth fight this calendar year for Kevin Holland, coming off that submission win against Vicente Luque. Daniel Rodriguez has won back-to-back fights, coming off that third-round TKO win back in earlier this year against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Pete, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I like Kevin Holland here. I think that this is a favorable stylistic matchup. I mean, Daniel Rodriguez is going to look to strike with Kevin Holland. I would say that Kevin Holland does play with his food a little bit too much for my liking, so it's frustrating to bet on him. But that's mainly at 185. At 170, I know what I'm getting with. And Kevin Holland at welterweight is, I think, like on his way to possibly walking into the top 10, top 5 if he's not already ranked. I'm not even sure. But Kevin Holland's absolutely legit. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, will have the submission advantage in this matchup if it does hit the mat. I think he's just a better overall fighter. I really do. The only issue is that he is going up against a southpaw, and southpaws can be tricky, especially finding sparring partners that are left-handed or can mimic left-handers pretty well. You have to win the battle of the lead foot, has to step outside, land that straight right hand of his. I do think that the clinch, for whatever reason, is where I'm predicting this fight can be won by Kevin Holland, where I don't know why I'm seeing sequences of knees up the middle in the tie plum, possibly leading to a guillotine choke from Kevin Holland. I don't know why I'm seeing that, but I think that whether it's via KO or via submission, if Kevin Holland goes out there aggressive, he can put away Daniel Rodriguez. If he doesn't, and he's a little too tentative and he's kind of just like looking for the perfect moment, he could actually end up being on the losing end of some rounds just because of Daniel Rodriguez's volume. I mean, if I'm looking at the volume, 7.39 significant strikes landed per minute for Daniel Rodriguez, 4.24 for Kevin Holland. When you take into consideration their accuracy, it's about 15 attempted for Rodriguez and 8 attempted for Kevin Holland per minute. So I don't love seeing that. And I definitely don't love seeing like Kevin Holland making the Santiago Ponzinibbio fight. Granted, it's a while ago, a little bit too difficult. But I think Kevin Holland rolls here. I don't think this is an appropriate matchup for Rodriguez. I think it's too steep of a mountain to climb, and Kevin Holland should go out there and look career best. And man, I don't know why. Tell me if you agree or disagree with me. Like a fight for Kevin Holland that I think stylistically makes sense and would be fun with all the trash talk would be Kevin Holland, Ian Gary. I think that's an interesting one, and granted, he has some room to make up and to get that opportunity. But I think that would be a fun matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to need another win after this to potentially get that Ian Gary matchup. One of the things that Holland has talked about is he is interested in that Colby Covington matchup. He kind of thinks Covington could be going down to 155.
Yeah.
Right now, Kevin Holland is ranked as the number 13th in the UFC rankings. In front of him is Carlos Praetis, and it's Jeff Neal, Gilbert Burns, Covington, and of course Buckley, Morales, Gary, Usman, Edwards, Rachmanov, Brady, and then Bilal there. Looking at from in that 9,000 option, Kevin Holland may be one of my favorite 9,000 options this week in terms of what he can do there. You look at it from the props perspective. I mean, you're not getting a lot of great numbers on Kevin Holland. Inside the distance, minus 160. TKO KO plus 185, submission plus 275, which that's probably maybe the best prop that's out there. The decision prop is plus 240. Look, I would say this, look, from the betting angle, if I'm going to play Daniel Rodriguez, I might just say, screw it. Give me Daniel Rodriguez wins by decision at plus 850. Just because I think that's such a juicy number. But overall, I'm with you. I think Kevin Holland is going to take it in that one. Next up, we got a featherweight matchup. It is Dan Ige taking on Patricio Pitbull. Ige is a minus 220 betting favorite, plus 180 for Patricio, who is $7,600 on DK, $11 on FanDuel. Ige, $8,600 on DK, and $16 on FanDuel. Of course, Patricio coming off his UFC debut back in April, decision loss there against Yair Rodriguez, which it was a fight. As you're watching, you're kind of sitting back saying, hey, Pitbull, you realize this is a 3-round fight, not a 5-round fight. Did finally start coming on there. In the third round, Pitbull 1-3 in his last 4 matchups. It does look like he's done pretty much his entire fight camp down there in Brazil. Dan Ige is coming off a third-round victory back in April against Sean Woodson. But one of the things about Ige primarily has been a decision guy. 13 of his 19 UFC fights have gone the distance, with a record of 5-8 in those matchups. But Pete, from a DFS perspective, man, I don't like this fight.
Yeah, I don't either, and then the fights I don't like for Dan Ige, he lands one powerful right hand or one powerful left hook, and next thing you know, he has a KO win. Volume is not attached to Dan Ige, but precision and power is. So, when you're looking at the significant strikes landed per minute for Dan Ige, 3.67, Jason, super low. 8 strikes attempted per minute. Granted, super small sample size for Patricio Pitbull. 2.45 significant strikes landed per minute in the fight against Yair Rodriguez. It's about 6 attempted. If you watch Pitbull fight, he is a little bit more aggressive than how he showcased against Yair Rodriguez, but that's just a stylistic issue, right? Like being at the edge or at the end of all of Yair's kicks was too hard to deal with. Dealing with the range of Yair Rodriguez is too hard to deal with. I don't think that he's going to double up his volume. That's just not how he is. He's very, very intelligent in the striking department. He's mindful of counters too. So he's not going to go in there and just absolutely brawl. He's going to be careful. So he will be more aggressive. But I don't think it's going to be anything that, really overwhelms Dan Ige. Dan Ige is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Same as Patricio Pitbull. The UFC experience clearly favors Dan Ige. Pitbull has, championship accolades in Bellator. But it's just different, right? It is different. You're fighting the best guys, and I think that Pitbull is outside of his prime, if you will, or at least not performing to, his previous years. I mean, you just saw Pitbull struggle against Yair, and prior to that, we saw him pick up a win over Jeremy Kennedy, but Jeremy Kennedy looked like he stunned Patricio Pitbull on the feet and had a moment where I was like, oh my God, maybe Jeremy Kennedy, who's not known for his striking at all, mainly about grinding you out with his good grappling and wrestling, stuns Pitbull, and maybe Pitbull's chin is just shot. And that's my worry here, is that Pitbull just can't take the Dan Ige power, and Dan Ige, lands and maybe finishes Pitbull or hurts Pitbull, but Pitbull's able to survive and be a savvy veteran. And then Dan Ige's, the damage criteria resides with Dan Ige. I mean, there's tremendous value on Pitbull if he really comes in here, hot out the gate against Dan Ige. But how is that going to happen? Because he's going to get hit, and I don't trust the durability of Pitbull as much as I trust the durability of Dan Ige at this point. Dan Ige's tough. He's got good cardio. He's been in the UFC. He has good jiu-jitsu and good wrestling too. So it's not like there's one real gap that somebody's going to expose. Granted, if you look at the metrics, it does say that Dan Ige has a 58% takedown defense rating. That could possibly be a path to victory, but I think Dan Ige's really improved upon that rating, which was largely due to at the beginning of his career. So I'm picking Dan Ige here, Jason. He's 4 years younger, has 5 inches in the height and reach department, has all the UFC experience, and I just don't trust, Patricio Pitbull to come in here like Pitbull of old. I just don't. The value is there for Pitbull, similar to how the value is there for Costa if they really come in here with the old styles. But I'm going to go Dan Ige here, Jason.
And you talk about same head coach in those situations with Captain Eric. In terms of that one, I mean, when you look at Patricio Pitbull, I mean, it's, the question is does he come out, with a more aggressive style? I mean, anyone who's watched Patricio Pitbull throughout the years, we're not surprised to not see this aggressive form of him. This has kind of been who Pitbull is, and you do wonder maybe has there maybe been some changes a little bit in terms of getting a little more aggressive early on the fight, knowing it's a 3-round fight. Looking at the props from the betting side of this one, the one that sticks out to you about Danny Ige has got to be you could play the plus 350 TKO KO, but you know what? I just play the plus 325 wins inside the distance. Just in case somehow maybe you were to submit him. But, on the Pitbull side of the equation, Pitbull wins via decision plus 300 is the one that sticks out to me in terms of that one. But I just, from a DFS perspective, I'm just concerned that more times than not, our fantasy score upside on both sides of this equation is in the 70s because it's a 15-minute boxing matchup. Let's just call it what it is. I'm not going to say it's kickboxing matchup. I'm just saying it's a boxing matchup because I don't really see these guys throwing leg kicks. And there's just not enough volume that's going to get you that score that you want. But you mentioned about it. I mean, look, Pitbull is not the Patricio Pitbull of 5 years ago. If this is a Patricio Pitbull of 5 years ago, I think it's reversed here. And Pitbull is a favorite. But
and more so.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I have always lived by the moniker of never underestimate Patricio Pitbull because there's been so many occasions where the guy just goes out there and he proves all wrong, but I'm going to pick Danny Ige in this one. I think Ige is going to win by decision. But from a DFS perspective, this is one, I think it will be a leverage spot on both sides of this equation in terms of DFS, but I just don't love the fantasy score upside in terms of that one. Then our opening matchup of the pay-per-view will be a lightweight matchup. We got Michael Johnson taking on Daniel Zellhuber. Zellhuber, a minus 600 betting favorite. Michael Johnson plus 400. Zellhuber, 9,500 on DK, $21 on FanDuel. Michael Johnson, 6,700 on DK, and $10 on FanDuel. This will be the 31st UFC fight for Michael Johnson. A UFC record, 15 wins, 15 losses. He is 3-1 in his last 4 fights. He's won back-to-back fights. Zellhuber 3-2 in the UFC, coming off that split decision loss back there at UFC Noche. And 4 of his 5 UFC fights have gone the distance beat.
Yeah, I mean, this is an exciting matchup between Zellhuber and Michael Johnson. I mean, we have clear advantage of youth on Zellhuber's side, 13 years younger. And not only that, he has the physicality edge as well, 7 inches in the height plus reach department. Zellhuber's talking a big game too, so I always get a little worried when these young guys start talking to the vets with like crazy aggression and crazy confidence, and it's like, oh man, I hope you're not overlooking the veteran, because just because Michael Johnson is a plus 400 underdog, and just because he's 15-15 in the UFC doesn't mean that he cannot beat you or spoil the party or knock you out. I mean, he's the one that has knocked out Dustin Poirier. Granted, it was a very long time ago, but he knocked out Dustin Poirier. Michael Johnson's hands are still electric and fast. Offensively with wrestling, he can land takedowns. Defensively, at some times, he is a little bit susceptible, but definitely I would put him as a fighter with good takedown defense. I think that Zellhuber is going to punish him at range, to be honest. I really do. I think the volume clearly favors Zellhuber. 6.26 strikes landed per minute, which translates to 15.65. Michael Johnson, 4.23 significant strikes landed per minute, translates to 10.8. So there's going to be a volume edge to Zellhuber. There's also a jiu-jitsu edge to Zellhuber as well. I think that his long arms can cause problems for Michael Johnson in the striking, and also if a grappling situation occurs, wrapping up the neck, setting up a guillotine, an anaconda, or a Darce choke. I think that the price tag is warranted. I'm a believer that Zellhuber is absolutely legit. He had an absolute war with Esteban Ribovitz. We've seen Daniel Zellhuber pick up some very, very strong wins. He's not very strong wins, but he's beaten Lando Venata, Christos Giagos, Francisco Prado. Did lose to Trey Ogden, who's tricky. But I think it's time. I think it's time for Zellhuber to take that next step. And the Esteban Ribovitz fight is what really proved it to me. Like, Ribovitz is a younger Michael Johnson, and he gave Ribovitz all he could handle. And I think that Zellhuber rebounds here, and I think that he picks up a very emphatic victory here over Michael Johnson. Do I like the minus 575? Absolutely not. I don't like anything north of minus 300. But, I mean, it is what it is. And at 9,500, I think that he finds a finish over Michael Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the props on this one, for Zellhuber, I was kind of looking at more that decision prop, that just the toughness of Michael Johnson, that he can't get him out of there. The question ultimately is going to be is, does he back up what he's saying? He's acting like he's ready to go out there and throw down Michael Johnson. The one thing about Michael Johnson, while he has been, doing this thing for a while, the hand speed is still there. I mean, this guy's always had that fast hand speed. That's why I look at a plus 185. I mean, look, the Michael Johnson props are they're so juicy.
Yeah,
they're so juicy. I mean, like, inside the distance, plus 1,200. TKO KO, plus 1,600. Sub, plus 4,000. Yeah, that ain't happening. Plus 750 to win via decision. That decision prop is the one that jumps out to me. Like, look, Zellhuber should win this fight. But, man, it seems like every week one of these big 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 favors craps the bed. And I wonder if it's Zellhuber this week. This is classic UFC matchmaking. The guy on the rise, even though he's coming off a loss.
Yep.
Taking on that veteran that's been there for a long time. We'll see what happens there. Zellhuber's going to be the pick, but man, Michael Johnson's one of those low-end options I don't mind getting to. And especially, hey, if Zellhuber is truly going to stay in the pocket with Michael Johnson.
He ain't doing that.
No, hell no, he ain't doing that. Come on. He ain't stupid.
Yeah.
But if he does, to kind of go on a game theory you have talked about, what happens is it's a 15-minute fight. It plays out on the feet. Michael Johnson goes out there, even in a loss, gets you 40, 45 points.
You'd be happy at that price tag. You definitely would. I think that there's another fighter in the 6,000 range that I would pick for a path to victory. But, I mean, Michael Johnson's a proven veteran. And, we see it all the time. Young guys get exposed.
Our feature preliminary matchup will be a bantamweight matchup between Kyler Phillips and Vinicius Oliveira. Oliveira, a minus 155 betting favorite, plus 130 for Phillips, who is 7,700 on DK, $13 on FanDuel. Oliveira, he's 8,500 on DK and $16 over on FanDuel. Of course, mentioned earlier in the show, Kyler Phillips, 8 UFC fights. 6 of those UFC fights has gone the distance, coming off that decision loss to Rob Font back in October. I think one of the questions you're going to have about Kyler Phillips, especially if you want to be a backer, is what does a late second, third round Kyler Phillips look like in this matchup? But he trains at a gym that we absolutely love, because that bantamweight room is stacked with who they've got in there. I mean, you think about one of his main training partners is Marcus McGee, who's getting ready for that fight against Peter Yan there. Oliveira, 3-0 in the UFC, coming off a unanimous decision win against Syed Nurmagomedov. He's won back-to-back fights by decision and won his UFC debut by stoppage, Pete.
Yeah, I like this fight. I mean, I think that Vinicius Oliveira has surprised many people. We knew he had power. I thought that from the regional tape, we had several fighters that could take advantage of some holes or some weaknesses a part of his game. And, man, he really psychs people out with his power, and he gets in their head, and he just starts landing combinations. And the guy's been on an absolute tear. One knockout, second knockout, third knockout. and 2 decision victories. I mean, Said Nurmagomedov and Ricky Simon are 2 legitimate fighters that are still active and can compete inside the UFC. The debut against Bernardo Sopai is very good, and that's a win that should age pretty well because I think Sopai is excellent. But I still have questions because like this is a guy that when you go back and you watch his regional tape, he's looked very chinny at times where like when he's taking shots on the regional scene, he got wobbled, he got hurt, and he got finished. I mean, Ali Taleb is a very talented fighter. He's 12-2. He ended up knocking him out in round 3, over in UAE. Adriano Ramos knocked him out in round 1. Christian Quinones won via doctor stoppage. That was a weird fight. But Quinones was imposing his will. And I do think that you can get to Vinicius Oliveira when you put him on the back foot. If he's marching you down, he gets confidence, right? Like he gets supreme confidence. He starts landing his power shots. He knows like, oh man, this guy really respects me. And it gives him just like the green light to throw heavy. And I don't know if Kyler Phillips will. I think Kyler Phillips will come out hot out the gate as he always does, throw crazy volume combinations, excellent kicks, kind of go to the well with the spinning techniques a little too much, but I think it's been like something that hasn't really resulted in a ton of success, but I could see a spinning elbow or spinning back fist or even a spinning kick, lead to a finish because it's an unorthodox technique that could catch the aggressive low hands Oliveira off, just like not expecting it. So when I see Phillips, a guy that I'm very, very fond of, and I think that Phillips has all the potential in the world to contend for a title if he shores up and patches up his cardio issues at plus 155, I'm interested. And I know that, Vinicius Oliveira has the momentum and has confidence by beating Ricky Simon and Said Nurmagomedov and Bernardo Sopai, but that's not Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips trains with legit competition. You're talking about Marcus McGee. You're talking about training with Sean O'Malley for a long time. Talking about Mario Batista. I mean, like I think that Kyler has the skills to win this fight. Power can definitely knock out anybody, but I've seen Phillips take some big shots, and I have confidence in his chin. I still don't have confidence in Oliveira's chin because I'm waiting for him to really, really get cracked with some big shots. And I also think that if he gets tired, we could see him get taxed and end up getting submitted. He is not on the level of jiu-jitsu that Kyler Phillips is. I wrote some notes down. And I think that Kyler Phillips, he's won me some money by picking up a submission in the past. But Phillips is a black belt, and if I'm not mistaken, Oliveira is a purple belt. So like we could see a moment on the ground where Kyler Phillips locks something in quickly and ends up getting Oliveira to tap. But more often than not, I think that Phillips can end up just being the better minute winner here. If you're looking at the output, and my model does like Phillips to edge it out, 12 strikes attempted for Phillips, 11.1 attempted for Oliveira. The takedowns are plentiful on both sides, 2.63 for Phillips, 1.89 for Oliveira. And then when you combine the better jiu-jitsu of Kyler Phillips, I like that. I like the attempts. I also like the fact that he trains out of a strong gym. So I've had my doubts on Oliveira. I've had less doubts about Kyler Phillips. And yeah, he fatigues as the fight goes on, and losing to Rob Font by just getting pressed the whole time, I think could lead to good preparation for what he's going to face against Oliveira. And I think he's going to make some adjustments, and I think he's going to capitalize. So maybe an unpopular pick, but I'm going to go Kyler Phillips here at 7,700.
And one of the comments in our YouTube chat was kind of saying, 8,500 Oliveira does look juicy. And yeah, looking at what the ownership projections are on him right now, it is kind of an interesting play when you're looking at that mid 8,000 range in terms of that one. Of course, I appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode of Fight HQ. Of course, be sure to give a thumbs up to this video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do that as well. Also, be sure to follow us over on TikTok at Fight HQ Podcast. We do put some clips over there, so we do appreciate everyone that checks out all of our content, whether it's here on YouTube, whether it's on the podcasting platforms, or whether it's on social media over there at TikTok. And it's Kyler Phillips, the guy that I've always been really high on him. A lot of it is really just the room that he trains in. I mean, if you just look at the top 15 rankings, he's in a room. Sean O'Malley does do some training there. He's not there full time, but he does come in there and get those rounds in there. You mentioned about Mario Batista, a guy that my understanding is there's a lot of fighters who aren't accepting fights with him. It's actually been a really tough thing for him to go out there and get the fights. And of course, Marcus McGee, who's got a massive matchup against Jan coming up here. So, it's like, I like the value in Phillips, but I think Oliveira is going to be the pick for me in terms of this one. Next up, we got a matchup where, I guess you say they've already had a fight against each other. It was on a casino floor down in Hollywood, Florida, following a PFL event. That's Marvin Vettori and Brendan Allen. Marvin Vettori is a plus 175 betting underdog, minus 210 for Brendan Allen, who's $8,800 on DK, $15 on FanDuel. Vettori, $7,400 on DK. And $12 on FanDuel. Vettori has gone to decision in his last 8 fights. Allen has gone to decision in his last 3 fights. And this is also another matchup where from a DFS perspective, I just don't love the fantasy score upside, Pete.
Yeah, I don't really like the fantasy score upside either. From the data thinks the line's a little wide. The Brendan Allen side, clearly I would say he should be favored. But Marvin Vettori's been a guy that's been inconsistent, been dealing with a shoulder issue for a while, also dealing with some issues outside the cage, some family issues. So with a heavy heart, we're going to see a very motivated but possibly struggling Marvin Vettori, right? Like, you don't know how a personal issue is going to affect somebody inside the cage. It could be used as great motivation. He said that, the person would want him to really focus on his MMA career and kind of channel the pain and channel everything into his training and performing under the lights. So maybe we could see a reinvigorated and improved Marvin Vettori, because I do feel like at times he's stagnant, very, very stagnant fighter. Some fights he's throwing a ton of volume, doesn't have the greatest head movement at all. He's there to be hit, but he will throw good volume at times. He'll attempt takedowns at times, and he's at his best when he's combining the arts. He's not the greatest striker, and for whatever reason, he started to shy away from his wrestling. And I think, like, in a situation like this, when you're going up against a fighter in Brendan Allen, you should look to change things up, because if you just stand at range, Brendan Allen will rip kicks at your body. Brendan Allen can also initiate the wrestling and grappling because he's clearly the better submission grappler, but I'm a little intrigued to see who the better wrestler is here. If you're looking at the defensive stats, the defense of Brendan Allen is worrisome for me. 45% striking defense for Brendan Allen. Don't like seeing that. Also has a 56% takedown defense. I don't like seeing that either. So it's like, if Marvin Vettori goes out there and is aggressive, I think that he can win this fight. And the data, like, as an underdog, it doesn't mind him at all, because, like, he has a path. He may not score the best, but it's all dependent on Brendan Allen's willingness to stay on his back, accepting the position, playing jiu-jitsu off of his back. But that's if Vettori chains takedowns together. I'm excited to see if he's actually healthy coming off that shoulder surgery, if he's actually going to let his hands go. He claims that when they had that issue at the casino, he had one arm. So it's like, I'm just intrigued by it. There is some bad blood, and then you also have these outside factors, but it's really hard for me to see one of these guys losing 3 fights in a row, but that's the reality unless we have a draw. So, I mean, Marvin Vettori's last 2 fights, he's lost to Roman Dolidze and Jared Cannonier. Brendan Allen's last 2 fights, he's lost to Anthony Hernandez and Nasruddin Imavov. It's very hard for me to think that somebody's going to lose 3 in a row here, and it's more difficult to envision Brendan Allen losing 3 in a row. And I do think that he has less distractions on his plate. And I think that of all people, he can be the fighter that has been improving. Where I think we kind of have Marvin Vettori. He is what he is. But I don't mind the value of Marvin Vettori. You and I talked pre-show and said, who do you like, better in a 1-for-1 value standpoint? Do you like Paulo Costa or do you like Marvin Vettori? And you asked that question to our audience. And I would love to hear from our audience, whether it's in the comment section or in the live chat, who they like as a better value play, Marvin Vettori or Paulo Costa from DFS at 7,300 for Costa and 7,400 for Vettori, plus 185 for Vettori and plus 225 for Costa.
If you told me Vettori was going to lace up his wrestling shoes, and you got to go back to the Izzy fight the last time he scored multiple takedowns in a matchup, you would love the fact of, that the Marvin Vettori who scored 11 takedowns against Kevin Holland to show up. To me, and Brendan Allen is going to be a leverage play this week, and he should be a leverage play this week. I mean, this is, I do have somewhat of concerns of will he be willing to take the takedown to play jiu-jitsu off his back, but I think overall, and Vettori, and one of the comments from Pete Warner was about the strength of schedule that Vettori's had. Yeah, this is a guy who's fought the elite of the division, but Brendan Allen has also recently been fighting the elite of this division as well. I do pick Brendan Allen to go out there and get it, but if you tell me take Vettori or Costa, I think I would take Vettori just because of the potential of the takedown upside.
What about the potential of a KO from Paulo Costa? I mean, it could happen, right? I mean, I think it's a very, very interesting conversation, and one where it just proves to me that from a 150 max, you should get to both of those guys a decent amount.
Yeah, no, I'm with you in terms of that one. Next up, we got a middleweight matchup as we have got Francisco Prado taking on Nikolay. Nikolay, kind of surprising to see he is getting a UFC fight here again after what happened after his loss against Austin Vanderford. He's a plus 125 betting underdog, minus 150 for Prado. He's 8,300 on DK, $15 on FanDuel. Nikolay 7,900 on DK and $14 on FanDuel. Nikolay 0-2 in the UFC. Of course, most recent loss coming there against Austin Vanderford, that Seattle card. Prado 1-3 in the UFC, and all of his UFC losses have come to be a decision, Pete. And this just seems like a loser leaves town matchup.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, this is one where Nikolay Verteenikov is a fighter where I haven't really been the highest on him at all. Whereas for Francisco Prado, I at least think all right, the kid's good. He's very dangerous. I can get behind his skill set a little bit. Beating a Zaitar in spectacular KO fashion. Okay, not knocking out Jamie Malarkey, who has been knocked out by most of his recent opposition. It's okay. But then losing two tough fights to Jake Matthews and Daniel Zellhuber. I think there is some credit to be had that he wasn't finished in either of those fights. I mean, Chidi and Njokuani can't say that, he wasn't finished by Jake Matthews. Francisco Prado went 15 minutes with him. Didn't really score the best. Did land a takedown against Jake Matthews. I find that interesting. Wasn't knocked out or submitted against Daniel Zellhuber. I find that interesting and, was kind of pieced up and was content with getting hit a little too much for my liking. On the opposite side, we have Verteenikov, getting absolutely dominated against Vanderford in 2 rounds of 10 minutes of control time and just absolute obliteration. Had no answer for that at all. The Danny Barlow fight, scored 22 in a loss, was picked apart from the outside, came on as the fight hit the 3rd round, but I wasn't all that impressed with Barlow, and I wasn't all that impressed with Verteenikov. So, I mean, this is a situation where I'm not really in love with either fighter. I'm predicting it's going to go a little bit longer. I don't think that Prado's going to knock out Verteenikov. Verteenikov isn't a poor striker by any means, but definitely does not throw with volume that I like. If I'm looking at my metrics, 4.38 significant strikes landed per 15 minutes, significant strikes landed per minute against 2.73 for Verteenikov. So significant difference there. 10.68 strikes attempted per minute for Prado, 4.8. So Prado's going to be doubling up the volume. Not only that, he has a a sneaky path to get takedowns as well. I mean, Verteenikov's takedown defense sits at 57%. It's one where you could just, land a takedown to solidify a round. You also have Prado, 13 years younger. Verteenikov has 8 inches in the height plus reach department. And I think most of that comes down to the fact that Prado is not a real welterweight, Jason. He's just not, in my opinion. He's just maybe he's just got a little bit too much muscle for his frame. Should be a true 55er, but maybe the cut became a little too much. But I think he's going to be undersized at welterweight for a very long time. But give me Francisco Prado. I'm not too fond of either one of these fighters, but the lean will be Prado.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. The lean is on Prado in terms of this matchup, but yeah, it's not of. I mean, look, as mentioned, I think the loser's matchup, and we are. I mean, look, the Contender Series is right around the corner. We're in cut season. I think whoever loses matchup will get cut by the UFC. Next up, we got one of our biggest favorites on the card, Gautier, who's a 6-1 betting favorite, taking on Valentin, who's plus 400, 6,800 on DK, $9 on FanDuel. Gautier, 9,400 on DK, $22 on FanDuel. And Pete, I'll mention one of the questions that came in and Discord earlier today was basically the question of, he's a massive betting favorite, but what happens if he gets taken down?
Yeah, I have significant worries about that. Because I think that Ateba Gautier has very good skills on the feet. But from what I've seen on the Contender Series and what I saw on some regional tape, I worry. And I really worry about him in the jiu-jitsu realm of things. I worry about him in the wrestling realm of things. He reminds me of Balaji Oki a little bit, if you want to kind of throw a 155-pound comparison. Balaji Oki came in, as a pretty significant favorite over Chris Duncan, and then attempted a takedown and was a little too aggressive and ended up getting guillotined in round 1. I worry about Gautier getting a little overzealous or maybe getting put on his back, and a guy in Valentin's skill set capitalizing. He's a master at taking the back. He's very good. Valentin, this is how I would play this. I mean, I think that Gautier is able to knock out Valentin on the feet. And not too many people are bold enough and brave enough to accept a fight with Gautier. And perhaps after this fight, he's going to be everybody's going to be shying away from him until somebody takes him down. And I think that Gautier could be improving. Valentin isn't a slouch on the feet, but Valentin has been cracked and hurt numerous times, and he has been knocked out in the past. So I think that Gautier by KO is clearly the best path here. I'm sure the number on that isn't exceptional, but I'm telling you, Jason, I do worry about him getting taken down, just like our listener and our community member mentioned. I mean, this isn't Jose Medina. Robert Valentin is a very big guy. Valentin is big, but in the height and reach department, Gautier still has 6 inches. Gautier is 7 years younger. The one issue is, the fact that Valentin has a judo background and he has 6 professional wins via submission, and he's a master at taking the back. Has a sneaky guillotine as well. So I just worry about certain situations and the fact that Valentin trains at Bang Tao, part of this camp. I like Bang Tao a lot, man. So I'll tell you what, as a 6,000 fighter, personally, you were talking about Michael Johnson. I would rather get to Valentin because I still think that there is some concerns and question marks surrounding Gautier and less question marks and concerns surrounding Daniel Zellhuber. So, I mean, Valentin will be a dart throw pick in a lot of my DFS lineups. But the pick for me is that Gautier catches him early and Gautier knocks out Robert Valentin at 9,400. So the pick is Gautier.
Yeah, the prop to win via TKO KO for him is minus 260, minus 325 inside the distance. So yeah, I mean, look, if you're looking, Now, to win via decision plus 850, I don't think that happens, but if you're looking to get a little juicy in terms of that one, that would be the prop to look at there. Next up, we got Adam Fugitt taking on Islam Dulatov. Dulatov making his UFC debut, coming off a win on the Contender Series. All of his professional wins have come via stoppage. Adam Fugitt 2-2 in the UFC, and Pete, this will be his first fight in 13 months.
Yeah, a little interesting, right? And this is another situation where Dulatov looks absolutely legit. Lost his pro debut, but ever since then, man, it looks like he's really patched the holes of his wrestling and his grappling, especially defensively. You know, he's always been a guy that hunts submissions aggressively, and playing jiu-jitsu on your back, if you are unable to find that finish, you are now on the receiving end of elbows and ground and pound and losing minutes on your back. So Dulatov definitely rounded out his game. His striking's really, really good. And, being the 9 years younger, going up against Adam Fugitt, where Dulatov's a minus 625 favorite, price at 9,600. Looked excellent on the Contender Series. Fugitt's not bad. Like, Fugitt is not bad at all. I mean, 51% striking defense, 50% takedown defense. It's a winnable fight. It really is a winnable fight. We've seen Fugitt look good in the past, getting mount against one opponent, landing elbows viciously, chaining together takedowns, going to the second or third round against Michael Morales, I forget. Like, extending fights and testing guys. He's a tough guy. He's very tough. 29% takedown accuracy translates to 7 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. So we're going to have to see if Dulatov's takedown defense can hold up for the entire fight. I do think that this is one where Fugitt can have moments and win some exchanges, but I really do worry about the submission skills of Dulatov. Clearly, I think that the striking edge is Dulatov. The hands are excellent, the speed and the combinations, but the way I see him hunt submissions makes me think that he's going to end up picking up a submission over Fugitt, because Fugitt should initiate grappling, which, it's kind of pick your poison here, and I think that he's going to try to use his wrestling, but it's going to lead to the finish, a finish defeat against Dulatov. So give me Dulatov here at 9,600, but UFC fighters making their debut, we see him, lay an egg every now and then, and this could be a situation where a guy who's a veteran, if you will, in Fugitt, could maybe give him a vet lesson, but I just don't see it. I think Dulatov wins.
It's been one of the storylines of the UFC in 2025 is these prospects that come in that you're super high on, and they go out there and they can't get done. And, you always wonder is, hey, what's going to happen that first time that you weather some adversity there? Of course, if you want to get access to all the tools that Pete has, that link to his Patreon page is below in the show notes. Be sure to check out that show. Sure to support what Pete does over there on his Patreon page. By the way, that Dulatov to win via submission prop plus 325. Ooh. So if you're kind of a little bit of a juicy prop over there, based on, of course, the sports book that you're at in terms of that one, because I pulled all the prop numbers off the Hard Rock app here in Florida, because for whatever reason, Best Fight Odds is having some type of issues. Like they only had props out there for the main event, so I don't know if they've got a little bit of issues. Maybe they're on vacation
or something.
apparently. Next up, we got Jimmy Crute taking on Marcin Prachnio. Jimmy Crute, a minus 350 betting favorite. This is crazy. You got a guy who is 0-3-2 in his last 5, and he is a 3.5-1 betting favorite, taking on Marcin Prachnio, who is plus 270. First fight for Prachnio in a year for him. He is 4-6 in the UFC. Prachnio price is $7,200 on DK, $12 on FanDuel. Crute $9,000 on DK, $17 on FanDuel. And it seems that when we talk about the MMA DFS community, the thing I keep hearing all week is, are we really going to trust a 9,000 Jimmy Crute?
I don't know. This is one where, my God, how is Jimmy Crute such a massive favorite? I mean, it is Marcin Prachnio, but this is a guy who constantly lets us down. And even when he's winning a fight, he just takes his foot off the gas pedal and doesn't win a fight. 2 draws in his past 5. Like, what is going on? So I just don't know what's up with Jimmy Crute. He has good striking. The fight against Anthony Smith, when he got leg kicked, super weird. Don't understand that. Very, very odd situation. Getting knocked out against Jamal Hill, okay. The Rodolfo Bellato fight, the Alonzo Menifield fights. The guy is a punching bag at times. I don't trust his striking defense and his cardio at times. Like in his fight IQ, I just don't know. But Marcin Prachnio is a guy that I am consistently against, and it's mainly because he's limited. Like he's won me some money in the past, but he's a good kicker, and that's really all I got, Jason. Like I don't like his hands. I think that his kicks are he has a ton of volume with his kicks, so he'll kick on all levels: leg kicks, body kicks, head kicks, in tight, close quarter kicks. So Crute has to be aware, if he has not patched up his kicking defense, he's going to get kicked a lot by Marcin Prachnio. And Prachnio can literally calf kick him and TKO him via leg kicks. But on the flip side, Prachnio's takedown defense is not good. And, it sits at 53%. But I think Crute can literally take him down and show that there's significant levels in the jiu-jitsu pedigree. I mean, Crute via submission is going to be a very popular play. And it's one where if Crute has a brain, he takes Prachnio down early and often and tries to maintain position, maybe soften him up with some ground and pound and search for the neck and just submit Marcin Prachnio. And the best way to not have to get kicked is by putting your opponent on their back or putting them on the mat in general. I mean, Crute is 8 years younger, technically 1 inch in the height and reach department for Prachnio, but this is a clear binary fight for me where on the feet, I think Prachnio keeps distance, kicks with volume. Crute needs to take him down and submit him very, very quickly. So I'm going to still pick Jimmy Crute, but this is a situation where Prachnio has actually won fights recently. You know what I mean? Like Jimmy Crute hasn't. So for DFS, for a 150 max, I would still be getting to a decent amount of Prachnio because I think it's a winnable fight, and he should win the fight if Jimmy Crute does not shoot takedowns. If it's a 15-minute striking fight, Prachnio wins. And for whatever reason, sometimes fighters just don't pull the trigger on the easiest path to victory, and this could literally be another one. But the hole is so obvious in Prachnio's game that I have to say that it's not going to get patched up in time for this fight with Jimmy Crute. So give me Jimmy Crute.
Samuel, I appreciate your super chat. We'll get to your question when we get done breaking down the matchups. By the way, that Jimmy Crute wins via submission prop plus 170, so not really a great number if you want to get there. And I mean, look, do you really want to trust a Jimmy Crute at this price tag just based on what has happened? He should win. Should win. Let's just say that multiple times. But yeah, Prachnio, by the way, in 5 of his 6 losses in the UFC, he has been finished. So, look, I think everyone's going to pick Jimmy Crute in this one, but you bring up some great points of maybe why we should be looking at rostering Marcin Prachnio. Next up, heavyweight matchup between Spann and Brzeski. Brzeski, a plus 190 betting underdog, minus 235 for Ryan Spann, who's every 700 DK, $16 on FanDuel. Brzeski, 7,500 DK, and $13 on FanDuel. And look, Spann is also one of these guys who's moved up in weight. And Pete, I hate to. I don't know if I can trust him.
Yeah, I don't know if I could trust Ryan Spann either. So I don't blame anybody for wanting to bet against Ryan Spann. The problem is that I don't blame anybody for wanting to bet against Lukasz Brzeski. And pick your poison here. I mean, granted, you have a minus 230 on one side and plus 190 on the other. 8,700 for Spann and 7,500 for Brzeski. I mean, talk about no fight IQ. Ryan Spann at times just makes boneheaded decisions. I mean, doesn't need to be going crazy when he's hurt or stunned. Doesn't, take his time. Completely exhausts himself. Has awful cardio. Thinking that he can go up to heavyweight and solve that. I think, granted, Waldo Cortez Acosta is a very tough challenge and has turned out better than we have expected. Ryan Spann should win this fight, and he really should, Jason. I don't think Lukasz Brzeski is or has ever been UFC level. I don't think that he brings anything to the table, truthfully, other than semi-volume striking and just kind of Homer Simpsoning Simpsoning his way into victories. If you do want to call it what it is, Brzeski is facing Ryan Spann, who has 43% striking defense and 52% takedown defense. If I want to look at what Brzeski has 54% takedown defense. 54% striking defense and 36% takedown defense. So it's too many red flags. They're both so volatile. Granted, you're getting a big favorite price tag on one and value on the other, but I do not see Ryan Spann losing to Brzeski. If he loses to Brzeski, he's not UFC level, and that's just me calling it what it is. Ryan Spann has power in his hands. He can knock out Brzeski. Mick Parkin knocked out Brzeski, who's not known for his power at all. But the only thing is he's an actual heavyweight. I could see a situation where Ryan Spann guillotines him. He has a phenomenal separation in jiu-jitsu skill from Lukasz Brzeski. Brzeski is, like I said, I just don't know what the guy's really all that good at. I have never been impressed with him. It's just like hoping that his opponent's fatigued and he comes from behind. So I don't have any confidence in picking him. I will pick Ryan Spann, and I will pick him to either KO or submit Lukasz Brzeski in the first couple minutes. It's how Ryan Spann's one of the best round one fighters out there. He's like Terrence McKinney, except now as a heavyweight. So I'll pick Ryan Spann, but I hate it, and probably the under is just the clear play that everybody should play. But yeah, I'm not picking Brzeski.
No, I'm with you there. I mean, I would kind of be looking at if it's. I haven't looked to see what the number is. I know on the Hard Rock app, one of the things I always look at is a fighter to win and whether it's under or over a certain round. I'd be interested on what Spann is to win under 1.5 rounds. You'll get his props plus 190 win by TKO KO, plus 220 to win via decision there. Yeah, it's Spann's got to be the pick here. In terms of this one, next up, we got two more fights here left. We got Bruno Ferreira taking on Jackson McVeigh. McVeigh making his UFC debut. He's a plus 425 betting underdog, minus 650 for Brunno, who's 9,700 DK. $23 on FanDuel, most expensive fighter over on the FanDuel side of the equation. McVeigh, 6,500 DK, $8 on FanDuel. Comes out of that Midwest scene. Shamrock fought in LFA. And, Brunno, we've seen the finishing ability he has in the UFC. But with Jackson, I just wonder, is he at this level? Just based on who some of the guys he's fought on the regional scene.
Yeah, so I think from a physicality standpoint, McVeigh looks huge for the weight class. Has 11 inches in the height plus reach department over Bruno Ferreira. 7 years younger than Bruno Ferreira. McVeigh's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, but he's going up against a very, very tough test. And the UFC's not doing him any favors by giving him this opponent, because I don't think that he's at the same level as Bruno Ferreira. I really don't. Brunno is a BJJ black belt, judo black belt, very, very decorated judoka. I think that Bruno Ferreira will have the advantage in the grappling, will have the advantage in the clinch, and has the power advantage. I don't love what I see from McVeigh's striking. I think that his submission grappling, his opportunistic submission attempts are intriguing. But I am not a fan of him fighting or beating Bruno Ferreira. Minus 650 for Ferreira, 9,700. McVeigh plus 450, 6,500. Literally, it just could be a frame issue, right? Like, McVeigh could maybe just keep him at the end of his punches and showcase good Muay Thai, not get hit with a big shot. Ferreira switches stances a lot, lines up that perfect shot, and when he hits people, ask Gregory Rodriguez, he knocked him out bad. I think Ferreira has multiple paths to victory here. It's just, what does he choose? And this is not a layup, but it's a very easy fight to win for Ferreira over McVeigh. So the price tag, everything's warranted. And we'll learn a lot about McVeigh. He could prove us all wrong and show how damn tough he is, but I know how good Ferreira is, and Ferreira is very good. So give me Brunno here.
It's an odd matchup.
Yeah. Especially when McVeigh was supposed to fight that other guy who I thought was going to be an intriguing fight. The guy that ended up missing weight by like 10 pounds, and they cut him on the spot. this is a situation where they probably said, hey, I don't know what we could get you to, we got this opening. And then he's like, dude, will I get another opportunity? I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel scared to turn this fight down because you don't really know your leverage with the company, especially when you haven't proven it yet. But this is, I mean, unless they said, hey, take this fight and we'll extend you. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, very also could be a situation of, hey, we can give you this fight. If not, we can't get you on a card for 3 months. I've heard that.
Thinks
I've
he
heard
could beat
that
Brunno.
situation.
Credit to him. I don't think he could beat Brunno.
Yeah, Bruno's going to be the pick there. You got to pay a heavy price tag, but there is definitely a path to get to him in terms of how you want to get there. Then our opening matchup of the night will be Giudice taking on Cagliari. Cagliari at plus 270 underdog, minus 350 for Giudice, who's 9,100 DK. $18 on FanDuel. Cagliari, she is 7,100 DK and $11 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, this fight's awesome. This fight's going to be really good. We have two high-volume, aggressive fighters. Carly Giudice, 10 years younger than Cagliari, 3 inches in height and reach department. I mean, if you go and you look at her statistics, it's crazy. 11.18 significant strikes landed per minute, largely due to the Gabby Fernandez fight and the Karascate fight on the Contender Series. That's 21 strikes attempted per minute. Holy crap, that is a lot. Not only that, I mean, the girl Giudice, she has attempted plenty of takedowns as well. I mean, like, she just kind of mixes it in, and she's content with, like, giving you a different look. And, has 0.95 takedowns landed per 15 minutes with 25% accuracy. Translates to 3.8 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. And, Cagliari has been taken down. Hasn't defended a takedown yet in the UFC. Was taken down in her only attempt. So I'm interested, but if you look at the value of Cagliari, I think Cagliari is going to be a very, very popular play, and one that I can honestly see a path to victory here. It's by just being dominant in the wrestling and grappling, because what does Giudice look like off of her back? We've seen her, get taken down, but Cagliari has really, really high volume with the takedowns. The significant strikes, she'll clearly be outstruck against Carly Giudice. 3.85 significant strikes landed per minute for Cagliari. 41% accuracy translates to 9 in comparison to Giudice's 21. So, my gosh. Similar striking defense, but the volume is clearly on Giudice's side. The takedowns, interesting here, Jason. Listen to this. 3.8 takedowns landed per 15 minutes for Cagliari. 29% takedown accuracy. Translates to 13 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. 13 takedowns is a lot. 13 takedowns is a lot. Giudice has 70% takedown defense, but it could honestly still translate to about 4 takedowns landed for Cagliari. So, I mean, this is one where it could come down to volume, of Carly Giudice, but gets taken down a good amount. Maybe she keeps popping back up to her feet. Maybe this is a situation of damage versus control. Maybe this is I go, you go, kind of taking turns with crazy high volume. My projections think that this fight scores pretty well. And I think it's clearly due to the historical data that Carly Giudice has from the Karascate fight, but also from the Gabby Fernandez fight, and then the quick head kick that Giudice just picked up recently. So I like this fight for DFS. I like both sides. I really do. But I will be picking Giudice here. I think that she does cleaner work on the feet, and I do think that she can mix in takedowns of her own right, keep it upright for the most part, and just kind of, volume strike her way to a 15-minute decision. Despite the takedown pedigree of Cagliari, I still do think Cagliari is a very, very good value at 7,100. The price tag is very, very cheap for somebody in such a high-paced fight. If I'm looking at the pace metric, Jason, this is the second highest paced fight. And, the pace metrics, the pace ratings per fighter, and the pace rate for the fight is all available on my Patreon, which is in the link below. But it's the second highest. I have the pace rating at 25.96. That's a very, very high rating. So one way or another, I expect this fight to deliver, and I still will pick Giudice here to end up besting Cagliari over 15.
And by the way, Judice to win via decision, that is minus 120. If you want to take Cagliari, you can get a better number at plus 450, but I'd almost just play plus 270. Not really chase the number if you want to go for the underdog value in terms of that. Before we get into our listener question, get our straight up fight picks. Main event, I will go Max Holloway.
Yeah, bro. I still don't know. Who the hell I'm taking. What do I do? The data says Max Holloway. I'm going to go with my heart. I'm going to say Dustin Poirier.
I mean, look, I think that even if you are, like, for myself, for me as an example, picking Max Holloway, the heart would love to see Dustin Poirier get a win.
Yeah.
He gets a win. No way he's retiring. No way he's retiring.
I know.
No goddamn way.
I know. I mean, really, like.
Habib and GSP are the anomaly in the sport that walk away.
Yeah.
It just, because, but maybe the body has told Dustin it's time. That may be very well the equation in that one. Co-main event, give me Kopylov.
Yeah, I'll go Kopylov, but I talked about the value of Costa.
I'll go Kevin Holland.
Kevin Holland.
Even though I know not to get picked against Patricio, Father Time's a hell of a thing. Give me Danny Ige.
Danny Ige.
I'll go Zellhuber, even though I'm concerned. I would just say that I'm concerned if he's going to try to have a firefight.
It reminds me of Alexander Hernandez and Cowboy Cerrone when he's talking all that junk, and then he got that vet lesson. But I think Zellhuber wins here.
I'll go Oliveira.
I'm going upset. I'm going Kyler Phillips.
Give me Marvin Vettori in an upset.
The data likes him. But I'm going to go Brendan Allen.
Prado.
Martin Prado. Yep.
I'll go Gautier.
I say Martin Prado. What the hell is this guy's name? Is it
Francisco Prado.
Who's Martin Prado? That's an old fighter, right?
He was a fighter. Was he a?
No, isn't Martin Prado a baseball player?
No, there was Martin Prado. I'm not fairly certain there was Martin Prado.
Martin Prado was on the Marlins, bro. That's who I automatically said. Francisco Prado is who I meant to say. My apologies.
I'd say you're gonna take Gautier.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Gautier. Yeah.
I'll take Dulatov.
Dulatov as well.
I'll go Crute.
I hate it.
Spann,
I hate that.
I have way too many favorites, by the way. I have way too many favorites.
Me too, but it is what it is, right?
I'll go Brunno
Ferreira.
And I'll go Judice.
I mean, I would rather us like pick who we think's going to win than just searching for an underdog just to appease certain people. Some weeks we do see it's chalk, and not all chalk is bad, but like it is what it is. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, I mentioned the super chat that came in from Sam a little bit earlier on in the show here. Highest leverage plays in each salary tier, if I can say that, if I can. So in the 9,000 range, I think it's going to be Zellhuber.
As leverage?
Yes.
I say women's MMA, people hate rostering it. It might be Judice. I would love to see what ownership is.
In the 8,000 range,
I love these tier questions.
To me, it's either Ige or Brendan Allen.
That's a great call. I think it's Dan Ige.
When we look in the 7,000 range, I would probably say you got to be looking Patricio would be the number one option there. And then probably Vettori.
I don't mind that. I'm going to say Kyler Phillips. Only reason I say that is because I do expect Oliveira to get a lot of love from the public. And everybody's afraid of Kyler Phillips' cardio.
In the 6,000 range, they're all leverage plays. Let's just call it what it is.
I think that the leverage play though is Valentin, as I mentioned with the grappling and the submission attempts.
I would say Valentin, and then it's the unknown of Jackson McVeigh.
he could come in and blow the
Yeah.
doors off, right? Like, or he could come in and just get smoked.
Yeah. Mention some Discord questions. First up, we'll get the questions here. Value plays underneath 8K and a core 3 on DraftKings. Value plays underneath 8K. I would say Kyler Phillips, Vettori, and if Costa's aggressive, maybe he goes out there and KOs Kopylov.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to do something different with my Patreon from now on is I'm like, so for always, whatever was projected higher, and I would always have the projections, and I'm always in agreement with them. I'm also going to be going, like, I'm going to have my picks as a column, and I'm also going to have what the data likes. Because sometimes it is okay to go against data, but also sometimes it is good to see, like, all right, why is the data liking this? Or, man, it's liking it, but I'm struggling to get to it. So I'm going to kind of differentiate that with what my picks are and also what the data projections are.
In terms of a core 3 on DraftKings, this is where it becomes really interesting. I would probably, if I'm hand building a lineup, I think I'm starting with Kevin Holland.
Ooh.
Jimmy Crute would be another interesting way to start that one too.
Okay.
So I'd probably say Kevin Holland, either Holloway or Poirier.
Yep. Okay.
God, and I feel bad saying this, Ryan Spann.
I don't think Brzeski is good at all. So I don't mind that at all. I really don't. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I don't blame you for getting to Kevin Holland. He seems very, very safe, and probably the safest on the card because we know what we're getting. Yeah, that's a good call. I like Kevin Holland as probably like the staple, and then just start figuring it out elsewhere.
I mentioned, Samuel, appreciate the super chat that you just sent in here in terms of this one. Say submission king / queen. Damn, do I put Kevin Holland in there?
You definitely can. I mean, he's a BJJ black belt. Let me kind of tell you some of my notes. So he's talking submissions. Brunno's a black belt. McVeigh's a brown belt. Crute's a black belt. Prachnio's a no belt. I think Crute is clearly one of the best submission options out there. You also have Zellhuber as a technical black belt with Michael Johnson as a purple belt, but I don't know about that. D-Rod is a purple belt. So, I mean, I think that if I had to pick, it's either Kevin Holland or Jimmy Crute as that submission type of prop. I might even like both, if we're being honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of a queen, well, we only have one female fight, which is kind of crazy.
No, I'm not feeling that.
Yeah. Let's get into some other questions here. Best plays. It's probably one of the fighters in the main event. I would be relatively surprised if the main event is not optimal in terms of the winner. Then I think you're just looking at these fights that you would expect are going to end by finish, and then the top two that really jump out to me would be Jimmy Crute, the Crute matchup, and then also Ryan Spann.
Yeah, the volatility in the Crute fight, the Spann fight, and the main event, it all seems like I have to have something in all of those fights. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It really does feel like that. Like the pace metric, the top three highest paced fights, the Judice Cagliari fight, the Dulatov Fugitt fight, but that's largely due to Dulatov's pace, and then the main event too. So we're all kind of on the same page with it.
Live dogs. You got to put Poirier right there at the top as a live dog. You probably got to put Kyler Phillips in that equation.
Yes, sir.
Those would probably. You know what? I'd put Patricio Pitbull in there too.
Okay, that's fair.
Top inside the distance fighters. I think we've kind of gone over a lot of these fighters. To me, you look at Gautier, you look at Crute, you look at Spann, you look at Ferreira, Holland. Am I missing anybody?
No. No.
Best decision odds fighters. I would expect Ige Pitbull goes the distance. I think we got Costa. Kopylov's got a good probability going distance. Vettori Allen is another one that's I would say is going to go the distance. And female MMA, we always kind of know that the odds are always high on that one.
Yeah, I think that the first fight's going to go the distance. I mean, I think the main event's going to go the distance too. I mean, I know you were predicting a late finish. I'm kind of expecting a 25-minute fight, but I don't know.
Top pump plays, you mentioned Robert Valentin, especially if, definitely one to stick head there. Favorite parlays.
I had one earlier.
I would probably, if I'm looking to try to find a decent line, I would probably, for me, if I was going to go a 3-fighter parlay, I would go Max Holloway at -130. Danny Ige -220. And probably Brandon Allen at -210. I feel like that's a safer type parlay.
Bro, I'm gonna go straight chalk for a parlay. Let me just cook it up. Talk to the people for a little bit. Let me cook this thing up right here.
Wow, why do I feel we're about to have 3 6-1 betting favorites?
Because guess what, Jason? We are.
I'm guessing we got Kevin Holland, we got Daniel Zellhuber, and somebody else.
Shut up, Jason. All right, we have Bruno Ferreira, Jimmy Crute, Daniel Zellhuber, and Kevin Holland. Parlay of the week right there. Chalk City.
All right,
any guess of what the parlay is? We got plus money though.
Oh, we got plus money?
We get plus 112.
Oh, God. Ugh. It's a lot of things that have to go your way for plus 112.
It's all going to go our way, though. That's all going to happen. So
this is
I'm going to go just like this. You could even add Brennan Allen in that if you wanted. That gets it to plus 220. You can add Kyler Phillips if you're feeling bold. That gets it to plus 377. Or you could just not be greedy as hell and just take the plus 112.
Yeah. A lot.
And then Bruno Ferreira gets KO'd by Jackson McVeigh.
Exactly. It's MMA. Top captains, MVPs. Look, Holloway Poirier is going to be the top in that aspect, especially in terms of ownership. If you're looking to get away from it, I'd probably be looking at Kevin Holland. Would probably be my next top option just because of the finishing upside.
Yeah, I like Kevin Holland a lot. I haven't even looked. What fight are they excluding from the captain contest, or what fights?
If I would imagine, yeah, it's probably not up. Probably for the Fugitt fight up is what's going to be in your captain contest. I would imagine your 4 early fights.
Maybe we could have. So you're saying we could have Dulatov in it?
Yeah.
He's intriguing.
Yeah.
He is intriguing.
Jason and Pete special. I mean, we've kind of talked about the Pete special. You want to get that one first. The first fight of the night, I don't know how much I really get to in DFS. But there definitely is a leverage play on Judice if you want to get there in terms of that one. And then the road to Manchester Series over and a half, 6.5. I need 7.
Less. I say less.
I'll say more. Okay. To that one.
Not bad a line.
What says, who would you prioritize on FanDuel more than DraftKings?
I don't play on FanDuel.
Maybe Vinicius Oliveira at $16. 6 out a little bit. as opposed to the $8,500 price tag on DK. That would be one to throw out over there. But of course, if you got any questions, you can line those up in the YouTube chat. You can hit the Discord channel. We'll get to those after. Of course, be sure to take advantage of what Pete's got going over there on his Patreon page. We'll have a DraftKings contest up. It's already up. You can click that link in the show notes to get into that contest. Also got offers from Stochastic that if you want to take advantage of the tools they have, you can check out that over there. Of course, also be sure to follow us on TikTok at Fight HQ Podcast Beat. Anything else you want to mention, man?
No, I just want to say thanks for supporting us. We really appreciate it. Good luck this week. Make sure that if you're playing in a 150 max, that you are getting to those value pieces that we talked about. It's very hard to predict fights, but if you set your exposures correctly, especially in a 150 max, that's why you don't have to stress so much. See, if you're playing single entry, you have one of your fighters lose, you ain't going to make the big bucks. So it is what it is. That's just the way that MMA is. Tennis is similar to it. Golf, you need a lot of things to go your way. Hence why 150 max. Less thought into less stress and more just kind of covering all bases, if you will. So good luck, everybody. Thanks for supporting us, and hopefully the Diamond is going to retire in spectacular fashion. Has a submission over Max Holloway. Has a decision over Max Holloway. Maybe he completes the trifecta and knocks out Max Holloway. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if the pressure gets to him, but pressure make diamonds. So we'll have to see if Dustin Diamond can live up to the pressure and live up to the name. So I'll be rooting for him.
And Poirier did confirm Lil Wayne will be walking out with him for his walkout. So
crazy.
Looking forward to watching UFC 318. I know that for the most part, I think a lot of people are more crapping on this card. I think from a pay-per-view aspect, I don't know. And look, maybe I'll be proven wrong in this situation. I think we're in for a good pay-per-view on Saturday. I think we're going to have an action-packed pay-per-view in terms of that one. I'll be looking forward to going out with the fellas and watching this one. Of course, if you got any questions, be sure to line those chat. And we will talk to you next week to get you ready for next week's UFC Fight Night card.